Ever since I finished making my previous videos, I've been wondering, who should I have fighting next? And then I heard a beautiful voice, a very soothing and comforting voice. It asked me one question. How many first graders does it take to kill Matthias? I had to answer that question. It's just too important to let go. Similar to my previous video, I'll be doing an overview of Matthias' stats and abilities alongside an overview of his weapon. As for the children, I will be interpreting them as normal human first graders. Their stats similar to a child of that age. Their main benefit in the fight is their quantity. The fight will be an all-out brawl, all the children will be released against Matthias at the same time. Matthias' in-game stats will be translated as to how they would function in a real-time battle. I will be interpreting how some things will work based on coolness and logistic factors, though considering how his kit is built, I don't think I need much reinterpreting of it. To make things more interesting, I will allow the first graders to have weapons of their own, things like scissors and pencils, things I might use to fight. The show will be given some other benefits as well, though I'll go over this when going over individual stats and abilities. Due to the nature of how this fight will go, there will be no such thing as clashing. After going over the stats of both fighters and how they interact, I will be describing how the fight between the two would play out. With all of that out of the way, let's go over our contestants. Matthias was a member of the Milo until he was exiled into the House of Spiders after going on an expedition to the outskirts alongside a fellow great sister and great brother. Matthias betrayed both of his siblings in order to acquire the weapon known as Leviathan. And due to the suspicion of the betrayal he had done, he was sent away. While Matthias was raised in Ryoshu, the ring nurse father Callisto had sent Ryoshu off to a ring school. During one day when one of the children had bullied Ryoshu, Matthias had noticed and decided to attack the class, enacting vengeance on all of them. Matthias fights using both his fists and kicks as well as his soul Leviathan. However, due to not being able to wield Leviathan to its full potential, he has to unseal it as the fight goes on. Now onto his stats. Matthias has a level of 85 without any debuffs weakening him. Similar to the other Nurse Fathers, he is receiving too many status effects, those being Burn, Bleed, Tremor, and Rupture. He is also really good at holding his overall ground, making it harder to stagger him. Unlike the other Nurse Fathers, Matthias is unable to use any Shin or Man. While being unable to doesn't exactly make him weaker, it still isn't always distinction can gain that extra power, though instead he has his grip. When Matthias hits anyone in the Book of Vengeance, he gains Sanity, keeping up his flow during battle. Similar to most Milo members, he has access to enhancement tattoos. Matthias' tattoos trigger whenever they are hit 3 times in a short span of time. With his enhancement tattoos active, he becomes stronger and able to dish out more damage with his blunt enemy attacks. Matthias' attack inflict both bleed and paralyze, making the attacks of his enemies temporarily weaker and punishing them for trying to attack. He also starts to inflict some burn when he gets close to unraveling his weapon completely, and solely inflicting burn and paralyze when fully unraveled. He is able to counterattack any enemies as well with some of his skills. Now onto the abilities. Beginning off, the abilities available to Matthias will be his Check This Out Kiddo Salus effect, which due to this being only Matthias without Kira, it won't really matter for the fight, but I thought it mattered to talk about anyway since it isn't important to his overall kit. If Kira was to be in the field, Matthias would be able to dish out more damage and would have an easier time winning clashes. He would also gain some strength when winning a clash every once in a while. Normally, he would have gained this by winning clashes and dealing damage, though it is only available if Kira was around for Matthias to feed his ego of remuneration. Similar to other Milo members, Matthias gets stronger by holding onto grudge, which he acquires whenever he is hit multiple times. The deeper a grudge Matthias holds, the stronger his counters become, as well as gaining a bit of strength. However, he also becomes less defensive, taking more damage. Even worse, if Matthias holds too deep a grudge, he takes even more damage. When losing enough health, Matthias begins to hold a deep grudge. He gets to this point about 3 times before dying. However, holding a deep grudge makes Matthias able to use a very powerful skill. This powerful skill changes based on how unraveled his weapon is. During the first 2 seals, it is Stamp of Vengeance, which inflicts a lot of bleed and a bit of paralyze. On his third seal, it turns into Stamp of Complete and Total Extermination, which is the same as the first 2 seals but stronger. Once the weapon is completely unraveled, it turns into Complete and Total Extermination Leviathan, which instead of inflicting bleed, inflicts a lot of burn as well as more paralyze. Whenever he reaches any of the 3 health points, he also uses a respective skill which unravels the seal of his blade. Said attack makes his opponents very fragile to other attacks. Speaking of the blade, his main strength comes from his weapon's choice, the relic Leviathan. His attack stats change as he unravels Leviathan, making his attack stronger the closer he gets to unraveling him. He begins to use stronger versions of attacks as he gets through it. Once fully unraveled, everyone around him will start to feel the intense hit of the weapon, burning alive due to its sheer heat. He also no longer uses any blunt attacks, only using piercing or slash. Not only that, but Matthias gets an insane crit, getting a bunch of resilience against any attacks, making any non-buff attacks basically worthless, dealing only a measly 1 damage to him. Normally I would have tried to get some story, but there really is nothing to talk about. These are first graders. They're first graders for crying out loud. The best reasoning I can give as to why they will fight is that the children are crazy. So we'll just jump into the stats and abilities. For this fight, I will be making up some made up stats for the children. First on the list is the stat that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things and will likely be ignored, but I thought it'd be funny to talk about. What level is a child? The way we will figure out what the level of first grader is will be based on everyone's favorite dream. Midspring's Night Dream 3. Since the Sinnerling's level was based off of their age, I like to infer that the level of first graders will be around level 5 since that is about the age children go to elementary school. However, it would make more sense if they were level 1 instead, but I feel it would be cool to mention Midspring when I just wanted to. Now onto some actually important stats that do matter. The children will be about 2 to 3 feet of height, being shorter than an adult. They also have the intelligence of a 5-year-old as well as the strength of one. Oh, and the fight to actually work, some extra stats were added. They will be fearless, aka nothing will make them back down. Aka they don't get just afraid of it and stop fighting, they actually do fight with gusto. So no, Matthias and some will not scare the rest away. The show will also have weapons, as I mentioned, but we will get more into that in abilities. The show will not fight against themselves and are willing to use each other as bait for the fight. Now, as to their abilities, the children will be able to use any weapons a 5-year-old might use and could get their hands on, such as scissors and pencils, alongside just carrying a school shirt. From experience, those things are generally light in some schools. They will be able to swing them around as a 5-year-old might. I will also give the children the ability to communicate between each other and formulate a plan, though it will be a plan that 5-years might come up with. They'll also be given some prep time, so they have a plan. But for the most part, it will be more of a dogpile towards Matthias, and I don't think I have anything else I can say about children. There's nothing special about them. Due to Matthias' intense strength, he will one-shot every single child. I will never have to clash since the children are too weak to do so. Once Matthias completely unrolls his Lyritin, the air around him will burn any child close enough, killing them in a few seconds. Matthias' crushing tattoos will be maxed out almost all the time due to the sheer amount of hits done by the children. This leads to Matthias being able to often use his powerful moves to hit the kids and kill them. However, not because the children are dead doesn't mean that their bodies disappear. They will power around the area or on top of him. In order to completely have one of the bodies disappear, you have to be burned completely or kicked away. One issue Matthias has during this fight is his lack of big AoE. While he can easily obliterate multiple children at once, his attacks are made to kill so many at once. If the children are able to grapple to Matthias, he will be slowed down from their weight and will struggle to pull out his moves. Matthias' counters will also not work as well, as the children will die on the first hit of the counter, so he can't really follow up with the rest of it. While unpacking his sword does lead to his attacks being stronger, it won't really help him much until it's fully unpacked, as the children will already die in one hit. It might be possible that unpacking can help kill a few more children at once, but not much will change. Once his sword is fully unpacked, though, things could start turning for Matthias' favor, as one of the main issues is the amount of bodies accumulated over the course of the fight, making the arena harder to move in. With his sword fully unpacked, the bodies around him will start to burn up, carrying the arena over time. However, this is not a very potent burn, so it would take a while, which by the time they're fully burned, it could already be filled by the corpse of another child. The other issue is that the hit of Lyritin also affects Matthias himself, which will wear down his health over time. Now to answer the big question you came here for. Let's say that whenever a hit is able to hit Matthias, they deal about 2 to 6 damage based on what weapon they use. This damage increases by 1 or 3 based on how much of a grudge Matthias is. Now, you could simply calculate how many hits it would take to kill Matthias and say that's the number of children I consider that they first have to approach Matthias. So I say that for every 8 children, only one makes it through to either land a hit or hold onto him to slow down. This number works because there are a lot of children and not just a few of them. If it was just 8, none would get through. With Matthias slowed down, I'd say 1 out of 5 can get through. The amount of children it takes to get through would probably increase by 1 for each skill he unravels, since he can hit stronger and pour way faster. However, when Matthias attacks with his strong attacks, he would clear the area around him. Not only that, but any child that does hit him would die the moment after from his counter. We could say that for 100 children, they deal about 40 damage, so on average about 30 damage maybe. If we divide Matthias's in-game health of 5,600 by 40 and then multiply the number by 100, we get 14,000 children before Matthias died. However, that doesn't account for the final save phase where he gets grit. So we should remove about 20% of the number and add the remaining calculation for the last phase. So it would take about 11,200 children to drag him to his final phase. Since the attacks of Shun would probably deal zero damage, the way Matthias would go down is from his self-burn, from his full being fully exposed. Assuming it takes Matthias on average 1 second to kill 20 children at once and that his self-burn gets stronger every 5 seconds, we can calculate that it will take between 1 to 3 minutes for Matthias to die from the hit of his blade due to the fire damage scaling over time. So for the final phase of his attacks, it will take about 1,200 children per minute, so about 3,600 in total. Adding all the numbers up, we get 14,800 children. With that, we're gonna go over to saying how the fight would go. The fight commences with the children coordinating and deciding to charge at Matthias in quick waves to lower his health over time without many dying at once. Matthias looks in their direction with a full smile on his face. He's confident he will win this fight with no struggle. He even thinks this will be fun. The children rush towards him from all directions. As they approach, Matthias begins swinging his sword around, killing many of the children at once. Some of the children get through from behind him and begin hitting him, but the moment they do, Matthias turns around and counters them, kicking their bodies away. However, from him turning around, more children were able to climb onto him and start hitting him. The many hits from the children piss him off, and he decides to take out a big chunk of them. He begins kicking around him, carrying the kids in front of him and sending them flying. He jumps off the ground, counting all the children on to him to lose their grip. He then drop kicks down, killing multiple children. This cycle of children rushing in and dying repeats for a while, until Matthias decides to unpack the first steel of his blade. He begins to slash around, trying to get the steel to loosen. The slashing kills multiple children, until the cover of the first steel goes flying, landing on some unfortunate kids far away. Then the children begin rushing in again now that he finished swinging. This time, however, he isn't lugging around the first steel, so he is able to put more kick into his kicks, sending the children flying at faster speeds. Some of the bodies send flying, snowballing to sending other children flying as well. He also begins to swing in wider arcs, killing more children when using his blade. Matthias keeps getting a bit of a grudge against the children, but throwing them out with his kicks brings him so much satisfaction. After another while, Matthias begins to grasp just the sheer amount of enemies he's facing, so he decides to swing around again to try to loosen up the second seal of his sword and get a bigger edge in this fight. With the sharp edge of the blade out, he begins to start culling down the children. More effectively though, this does make the issue of the accumulation of forces more annoying. While many bodies have accumulated on the ground, his kicks should be enough to get the bodies in the ground, as well as the living children off of him at the same time. He has already gone through more than half the children, so he is confident that he can still win. The fight drags on for another long while. Then Matthias has had enough and decided to just start ending off all the children. He begins to unseal the last steel of his sword, carrying out many more children. With his last steel removed, the children begin to barely reach him, as a hit of the blade causes them to pass out from being exposed to it. Matthias begins to slash around with everything, completely out and burns off any children who get within his vicinity, turning them into ashes. He dashes through the area, kicking and slashing at any child nearby. The children have changed tactics and have begun to run away from Matthias, trying to get the hit to kill him. Matthias throws his blade, calling and burning any child he touches. His kicks are insanely strong, launching a shout at intense speeds. After a while of the children just running, Matthias begins to tire out, and his rampage begins to slow down until he can no longer move, and the very blade he was using to kill his opponents burns him up, signaling the victory of the few remaining children. Thank you for watching the video all the way through. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'll be going back into school soon, if not I already am. So I'll have a bit of an issues making videos for a while, but I'll still try to make some fun content in this channel. So I hope you'll stick around to see what I make. I'll see you all in a couple weeks again. Everybody have a good day.